Right, hi guys, thanks for getting along to the lesson nice and early in time. Let's have a look there. Oh, I'll turn sound off on my iPad. Okay, let's have a look. It's 4 minutes to, so my 4 minutes time when we start the lesson, just give people a chance to get along. You'll be having a look at my amazing map of Europe. There's a few things a bit different than it is now while you are waiting. About 4 minutes and we're going to get started. Can I just mention as well, didn't mean to mention that, have seen sometimes in the chat some people being a little bit silly, and we do have a couple of teachers in there every day who are making sure those get taken away straight away, so we're not spoiling for other people, okay? People coming along here to take part in the lessons and to learn, you can chat in the chat, that's absolutely fine. You're not going to be banned from the chat for that. It would just be if you're being silly, if you were spamming anything or being mean or anything like that, okay? I do have the option to turn the chat off, and I don't want to do that because I can't ask you questions, I can't get you to be talking to each other and stuff like that. So if you are doing those things, you're likely you might spoil for other people. So if you are in the chat, just be sensible, enjoy yourselves, and don't spoil for other people for me, please. Thank you very much. Right, okay, so get started with the lesson. So on a Wednesday, my live lessons are going to be a topic lesson, okay? Now in topic lessons means we're looking at things like geography, we're looking at things like history, we might look at a bit of music, other things like that, lots of different other subjects that we can get interested in, okay? Now, our topic at the minute, and probably going up to when half term is, our topic is going to be people who changed the world. So each week we're going to be looking at different people that somehow they've changed the world completely. Okay, so we're going to be looking at lots of different people. We're going to look at a certain person today, which we're going to get onto in a minute. Okay, in the title, so you'll know who we're looking at. Next week we'll be looking at someone else, and so on and so on each week. Okay, so again, lessons are going to stay on afterwards. So if you want to, when you're doing your work, if you need to look at again something that I've talked about that you didn't quite get, or that you forgot, or anything like that, then you can do that. And obviously, if you're watching it again on repeat, hello, and if you need to pause it or anything or go back, you can do that as the video is going on. Do advise when we're going through the lesson, have a pen, have a piece of paper, make some notes of the things that are going today with it being a history and geography lesson. Those notes are really going to be handy. Okay, they're really going to help you as we are going, or as you're doing your work after the lesson. So keep those notes. After the video, as always, I'll stay around for a little bit, and if you are stuck, you can ask us a question and I can mention it on here. Okay, again, if you are stuck and you do need some help, put it down in the comments. Okay, the live chat, which obviously won't be available if you're watching it back, but the live chat's there for questions I'm asking, for you to talk to people that are there. The comments down below is for if you are stuck. Okay, if you need a hand, if you need help, and obviously if you're watching it again, you can still comment there. I will check them and try to help you out there. And apart from the comments as well, there is my Facebook, my Instagram, and my Twitter, Mr. Biggins123. If you go to them, you can send me messages or comments or anything like that if you're stuck with anything. If you want to send me some of your work, I got some brilliant pictures yesterday from the science lesson of the heart. I've got quite a few. I did say I was going to announce the best ones. I think I'll wait till the science lesson next week, because I got lots in yesterday, but I got another one in this morning, so there might be people still send them in. So next science lesson, I am going to be sending them in. So if you're going to send me the work that you're doing, which lots of people are, and it's brilliant to see that work, you can do. Okay. And you can send it to those ones, and obviously where you get the work from, the Padlet, you can comment on there. I'm going these things at the start of every lesson, just because it's the first week. I won't go through these as much next week. Okay, if you do get stuck or you've missed something, just remember, don't get too stressed about it. Just watch the video again afterwards on that little part and just continue on watching everything like that. Let's see if anything I missed. No, we're all good. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a little bit of a history and sort of geography lesson rolled into one, because the person that we're going to learn about today is going to be a person called Franz Ferdinand. So remember, we're looking at people who have changed the world. Now, Franz Ferdinand, you might not recognise him. Okay, some of you might recognise the name because there was a band called Franz Ferdinand, or your parents might recognise the band called Franz Ferdinand, but that's not who we're looking at. We're looking at someone else from a lot longer before the band was around. Okay, and I'm pretty sure they got the name from this Franz Ferdinand that we're going to look at. I can't see why else they would have called themselves that. However, although we're looking at people who have changed the world, it's actually this man's death that changed the world. Okay, not actually something that he did in his life, but his death is what the thing that changed the world. It changed the world completely as we know it. And if you look at this map of Europe, you probably not recognise it as much as the one that you would look at today. You can see that we definitely know the world must have changed since Franz Ferdinand was around. And the actual death of this man is sometimes described as the spark that started the Great War, okay, or as we know it, World War One. Okay, first little question though then, I've just mentioned there that this man's death was the spark that started the Great War, or World War One. Okay, why did they call it the Great War then and not World War One? Why did they call it the Great War and not World War One? Pop it down in the chat, okay? Why do you think they changed the name? Why, when this happened, did they not call it World War One and World War Two? What do you think? Let's see in the chat. Okay. So, someone said a big war, but not a full world war yet. No, not quite. Brilliant. I've got Molly and Amelia there with the right answer. Millie Scott there, brilliant. Well done, Ray. Emily, loads of really good answers there. Yeah, They called it the Great War, not World War One, because they didn't know there was going to be a World War Two, did they? So you can't call it number one if you don't know it's going to be, don't know there's going to be number two. Think about it in films. When films don't come out, they don't call themselves. Let's think they don't call themselves Harry Potter 1, and the next one's Harry Potter 2. I know the Harry Potters don't have numbers, but the first one is just called that name, and the next one has that number. So it wasn't called World War One until after we'd had World War Two. And as well as that, they called it the Great War. Now, no war's great. Okay, when we say, oh, that's great, that's brilliant, that. Okay, so why did they call it the Great War? Why did they use that word? Why did they use that adjective? Why did they say great to describe the war, when war is always really, really far from great? No war is good at all in the slightest, never mind great. So why do you think they call it the Great War and use that adjective? Some answers straight away as I look down there. Well done, Milo. Well done, Iris. Brilliant, Emily. Great also means big, okay? And it's only more sort of recently that great became this word that we use to say something that's really, really good, okay? Originally, we use a lot more when you say, oh, was it a great castle? It means it's a big castle rather than being like a really good castle, okay? So it was just saying that this was a war that was massive, okay? And at the time, it was the biggest war that had ever happened. So let's roll back a little bit, okay? And let's start to learn a little bit about our man Franz Ferdinand. Franz Ferdinand was born in a town called Graz, which was in Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary. Okay, so it's around about here. Okay, in the Padlet there will be a PowerPoint there that Mr. Donaldson has kindly made. It's absolutely brilliant. Okay, has these maps on in a bit more detail, and obviously the positions of towns and things is a lot better than me going, oh, it's about there, okay? But around about here is where Franz Ferdinand was born. He was born on the 18th of December, 1863. I'm glancing over there, making sure I'm getting my dates right. So, I'll write this down. Might be something that you want to note down on your notes. So, it was the 18th, of December, and it was 1863. So you can't just put 63 after that date, can you? Okay, because if you just put 63, it might be 1963. It was 100 years before then, okay? He was born on the 18th of December, 1863. And he became what was called the Archduke of Austria-Hungary, Hungary, when his father and his cousin both died. So tragically, his father and his cousin both died, and he became the Archduke. And what the Archduke means, what that word means, the Archduke of Austria-Hungary was the person who was going to be the ruler next. Okay, so it was the person who was heir to the throne. Okay, so at the minute we have Prince Charles, who is the heir to the throne. We don't call him the Archduke, but in their country, they called him the Archduke. So that means he was ready to step up and become the ruler of the country. Now, this is a country, Austria-Hungary, which doesn't exist anymore, and it was ruled by a king. So a little bit how we have a queen now, they had a king, but back those over a couple of hundred years ago, all right, the king had a lot more power, was in charge. We have a queen, but it's the parliament, it's the government that's in charge rather than the queen. The queen doesn't make many decisions or any choices or anything like that. It's our government that do that. Back when we had the king here, it was the king that would make the decisions. He was a ruler. He would decide everything that was going to happen. So being the Archduke, being the next person to be king, was a very, very important, very, very big role in the country. And these two countries don't exist anymore. It's split up into quite a few different countries. And as you can imagine, Austria and Hungary are their own separate countries now. Okay, so there's those two countries, but there's also a few other countries around there. We're going to get onto that near the end of the video. That's going to be one of the tasks for you. And he married someone called Sophie, who was Duchess. And I'm going to look here because this isn't you've seen my spelling mistakes with English. Well, now we're going into another language, so I'm definitely checking this. And it was Hohenberg, I think. Hohenberg. That's how I pronounce this. Sophie, Duchess of Hohenberg. Hohenberg. Probably butchering that. And that was his wife. Okay. So you're going to pop that down in your notes. I think you might need that one. Okay. I'm going to step aside a little bit so you can get that. So Sophie, Duchess of Hohenberg. That was his wife. Okay. Now, at the time, so 200 years ago, people say that Franz Ferdinand was a modern ruler. So when I say modern, obviously we think of things that are quite new now. But what I'm talking about is back then, 200 years ago, 200 years ago, he was thought as modern then. So he wouldn't be modern in today's standards, okay? Probably quite typical, or if anything, behind the times. But then he was quite a modern ruler. And he had an empire, and he wanted to have peace in his empire. And that was sort of seen as quite modern, because other rulers just wanted to have power and wanted to rule as many different countries as they could. He wanted just to have peace in his whole empire. So that was seen as something quite good and something quite modern. Now, I mentioned empire there. Around the 1800s and 1900s, lots of countries had empires. Britain had an empire, okay, the United Kingdom. I'm going to put Great Britain up here because it's back then. Okay, Great Britain had an empire, and that spanned the whole world. If anything, the British Empire was the biggest empire that there's ever been, the biggest empire in the world. And what an empire is, it means not necessarily a good thing that the country has beaten another country in a war, so they now rule that country as well. Okay, so lots of countries around the world, if they were conquered, defeated in war, and they would become part of that empire and ruled by that country. Okay, so that's what Austria-Hungary had. At these times, people wanted bigger and bigger empires, so they were stronger and stronger, and other countries were frightened of them, and they were the most powerful country out there. So Franz Ferdinand, wanting to have peace in his empire rather than growing it and making it more powerful, was actually, like we say, quite a modern thing. So that is a little bit about who Franz Ferdinand is. Now, I mentioned at the start that it wasn't actually things he did in his life that changed the world. It was his death that changed his world. And not just his death, but he didn't just die normally, he was actually assassinated. Okay, so other people killed him, and we're going to have a look at why they killed him, how they killed him, and how that led to the start of the Great War. So, one of the countries Franz Ferdinand was ruler of was a country called Serbia. It's not on this map, okay? Is here, down Serbia. So this country was part of the Austria-Hungary Empire. So it was ruled by Franz Ferdinand. Now, we've heard Franz Ferdinand, his views, he wanted peace. So he offered the people of this country loads and loads of rights and said, I'll change these rules, I'll change those laws and things like that, so that you're happy under my rule, okay? But he didn't want them to leave the empire. So he didn't want them to leave and say, oh, you can be your own country, don't worry about us anymore, you can rule yourselves. But he wanted them to be happy, so he tried to give them lots of rights, lots of laws, things like that. Now, some Serbians happy with that, but there were some Serbians who wanted to be ruled by their own leader, ruled by their own people. So they weren't very happy with that. And because of that, a terrorist group formed called the Black Hand. Okay. The Black Hand. Okay. So this terrorist group formed because they weren't happy. They wanted to be free. They didn't want to be ruled by a ruler from Austria-Hungary. They wanted to be ruled by their own king or own government, whatever they wanted to put in place, but they wanted that choice, which you can understand as well. Now, this is where, when we look at history, we always have to look at it what we call objectively. Okay, so when we look at history, we look back. If you've been in my lessons, you'll have heard me talk about it before, but there's a lot of what we call propaganda, and that means people giving out their own views. Now, when we look at history, we have to look back, look at all the facts, and make our own opinion, not take the opinion of people that are writing these articles and things, or these historical events, not writing them down. We're not going to look at that, because let's have a look at this, okay? Why do you think, at this time, why do you think some people in Serbia, put it in the chat, might have thought Franz Ferdinand was a good ruler, okay? Why do you think they might have thought he was a good ruler? Let's have a look, see if anyone's got any ideas why they think he would be a good ruler. Someone's saying that he treated them nice. So how did he treat them nice? What have we mentioned? What is it that it is? He was nice to all of them. He wanted peace. Who's that? Sam. Brilliant. Well done, Sam. Hope you're keeping well, mate. He gave them rights. Well done, Joseph. He was fair. He wanted to be peace. Fair, peace. Well done, Billy. Well done, Drew. Okay, Isabel, just calm down. We're getting to that. Okay, we're going to go through. You'll see. Give them rights, wanted peace. Well done, Amelie. Well done, Ollie. Some loads of really good answers there. He wanted peace. He was giving them rights. Yeah. So people would have thought that he was a good person. But let's flip at them. Why do you think some people didn't like him? Okay. Why do you think there were some people in Serbia didn't like Franz Ferdinand? So we said that people like Franz Ferdinand in Serbia because he wanted peace. He was giving them rights that they hadn't had before. He was changing laws and stuff that they had them for them. But that put my teeth in. He was changing laws and things, so it was a more fairer country for them. Why do you think some people thought he might have been a bad ruler or didn't like him? Why do we think that? So someone's wrote there, really interesting one, said he's from Hungary, so he's from another country. Okay, so some people do have those views, which not very nice views, but some people do have that one. They wanted to be free, Milo. Yeah, brilliant. They wanted to have their own government because it did. Some people might have thought he wasn't fair because he wasn't them letting being free. Well done. Let's have a look. They wanted their own government. Well done, Hadassah. Well done. Really, really good one. Because they wanted to be in their own country. So some people might have thought he was fair because he was giving them all these things. Some people thought he was not fair because it's their country. Why should he be in charge? So, the actions of the Black Hand, okay, planning to assassinate someone is not a nice thing. No way in, or can we say, this is the right thing to do or the good thing to do, okay? However, you can understand the reasons why the Black Hand did that. Whether what they're doing is right or wrong, there were reasons behind what they did. And there are always reasons behind the actions that people do and the opinions that people have, and we have to remember that. So when we look at history, we can't say, oh, they want to just look at the facts that they assassinated him, and that's what started World War One. We've got to look at why they started it, because we need to look at, when we look at history, the most important thing is looking back, looking at why things happened, so we can stop the bad things that are happening, so they don't happen again. And then we can, things that happen that are good, we can have a look back, see what caused those good things to happen and do those again. So when you look at history, we have to look at why things happen, because no one in the world, in history, your friends, your family, does anything for no reason. There is always reason behind their actions, whether what they're doing is right or wrong, okay? So yeah, this Black Hand, they want to be free. They decided they were going to make a plot to assassinate Franz Ferdinand, okay? So they hired a group of assassins to kill the Archduke in any way possible. This group hired lots of assassins to try and kill him. One of those men, who's going to be very, very important, was called, and I'm looking over there again to get his name right. I would be making a note of this one. Gavrilo Princip. Gavrilo Princip. Okay, so they hired lots of assassins, not just one. They hired lots of assassins. One of them, who's very important, I'm sure you can guess why as we go on, okay, was Gavrilo Princip. So they hired these assassins and they said, can you kill this Archduke any way possible? So let's actually move on to the assassination. Okay, so, right, what I'm going to rub off. I'm going to rub off that he was born. If you haven't got it, obviously you can have a look on the video again later. But I'm sure you should have that one down by now, and his wife. Okay, so the day that this assassination plot started was the 24th of June, and it was in 1914. So 1914, the 24th of June, the Archduke and his wife, Sophie of Hohenberg, I don't know how to say that, were in a motorcade in Sarajevo. So we have Sarajevo down here. Sarajevo is, actually now it's the capital of a country called Bosnia, and this area still was called Bosnia, but it was part of Austria-Hungary at this time. It wasn't its own country. It is its own country now. So he was in this southern Austria-Hungary, and he was in Sarajevo with his wife in a motorcade. Now, a motorcade is, if you ever seen, say, the President of the United States or the Prime Minister or anything like that, when they're going somewhere, they drive and there's lots of cars, like 3 or 4 cars, and they're there to protect them, and they have the police cars rushing them through. That's a motorcade, okay? So he's in one of those, and it was a group of cars, and he's in Sarajevo driving to a town hall, okay? So there's police cars there with them, people there to protect him and his wife. Now, back in those days, lots of cars were open top, okay? They had no roof on them. The cars didn't look like they do these days. Obviously, we can get converters with the roof down, but most cars had no roofs, okay? As you can imagine, that doesn't offer much protection if someone's wanting to hurt you. So, there was no roof on his car as he was in this motorcade, which is important. Now, the Archduke's motorcade had 3 cars in, and on the way to the town hall, it actually passed 2 of the assassins. 2 of the assassins that were plotted all around this town of Sarajevo to try and catch the Archduke on this path that he was taking to the town hall. They'll have worked out which path it is that he's going to take. He's going to go this way, then that way, and they put assassins along the way to try and take their chance to kill the Archduke. Now, this motorcade of 3 cars passed 2 of the assassins that the Black Hand had actually put in Sarajevo. And when it passed these 2 assassins, they actually did nothing. Okay, and we don't know why. Maybe they had second thoughts. Maybe they didn't have the opportunity. Okay, maybe they thought they decided what they were doing was wrong. Maybe they just got scared and thought they didn't want to go to jail, or they didn't want to be arrested by the police. Okay, but all we know is it passed 2 of them, and they didn't do anything. They didn't try to kill him, so he was safe. Those 2 men actually were armed with bombs as well. So it's not as if they just turned up and they were going to do something if they could. They went there with a bomb. So you must think, how committed must you be to carry something so dangerous, but then they decided not to. So you have to make up your own mind why you think they didn't. The Archduke's motorcade finally reached the town hall, but before he could get out, one of the assassins, another one, a third assassin was there. This one decided that he was going to do something. Maybe he had the opportunity that the others didn't. And what he did, he as well was armed with a bomb, and he threw his bomb at the Archduke's car. And it was a really good shot. He threw it and it hit the car. Now, this bomb wasn't a bomb that would explode when it hit something. Okay, this was a bomb that had a little timer on a clock. So the bomb wouldn't explode until the timer had went off. Now, it was a really good shot, but the cars those days were made of really hard metal, and the bomb actually hit the front bonnet of the car, in front of where the windshield is, and it bounced off, and it bounced behind them, and the car was still moving a little bit, so the car moved away from it. Now, unfortunately for the people in the car behind in the motorcade, it blew up, and it blew that car up. But luckily for the Archduke and his wife, it managed to not harm them at all and not damage the car, so they could still get away. So you can imagine, as soon as that happened, those 2 cars decided just to leave. They obviously didn't stop for the town hall. They just, as quick as they can, got out of there. Archduke and his wife, obviously very, very lucky, and probably thanking the stars that they're okay. Now, the people in the car were obviously important people that were there to protect them, so they were quite smart. And they said, right, if we go, okay, the same way back, or if we go the way that we plan to go back, these assassins might be smart enough that they know where we're going to go. So if we drive all that way back, there could be other assassins waiting for us. So why don't we change our way home? Really good idea. So they changed the way they were going back, not home, because the Archduke didn't live in Sarajevo, but where he was staying while he was in Sarajevo. So they decided to change their way home. So they started going back. You can imagine, panicked. The drivers are panicked. The people in the cars not sure really what's going on. And because the driver was panicked, the car that was in the front of the motorcade made a fatal error. And this one little error has, we could say, we mentioned that the assassination and the death of Franz Ferdinand changed the world. We could take it back to this one little error that actually changed the world. He took a wrong turn. He turned down a wrong street. And he started going down this wrong street, and as soon as he started going down, there was a governor in the car And the governor shouted, "Stop what you're doing, you're going the wrong way. If we go this way, the assassins might be there." Now, because of that, they slammed the brakes on. Obviously, the Archduke's driver slammed his brakes on so he could turn around and they could go back the right way. Now, this is a really unfortunate thing, because as the Archduke's driver slammed his brakes on, car skids to a halt. Probably not skids, cars didn't go as fast as it, but skids to a halt, we'll say, for a dramatic effect. Okay? Just so happens, guess who was next to the car when this wrong turn happened and when they broke? So this car is now stopped. Gavrilo Princip just happened to be standing by the side of the road where the car stopped and saw the Archduke and his wife in a car, sitting, not moving. So, fortunately, Gavrilo Princip didn't need a bomb. The car was stopped. There was no roof on it. He was armed with a gun. So he walked up to the car. He shot the Archduke and his wife, who tragically died, and obviously tried to get away. Now, Gavrilo Princip was caught, and the rest of the assassins in time. They were all caught, but that was too late for the Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife. Okay, so that really small bit of luck, okay, that really unlucky moment cost the Archduke and his wife their lives, and that you're going to see how that led on to some really big changes, that one little mistake. Okay, so that was how Archduke was assassinated. And what we're going to look at now is how that assassination led to World War One. Okay, so this is one country here. Okay, a couple of other countries that are ruled by Austria-Hungary, not happy at all with Franz Ferdinand leading them. So in Sarajevo, the Archduke, the next person to be king, is killed. Why did one event, the assassination of one prime minister, why did that cause the whole world to come to blows? The whole world to start a war, start a terrible thing we were going to look at. Now, in the 1900s, countries set up things called alliances. Okay, there were lots of alliances set up. Can you put in the chat, what do you think an alliance is? Okay, we're going to go into looking what they are. But does anyone out there already know what an alliance is? If you're watching back, obviously on a repeat, just in your head, or tell someone that you're with there, tell them what you think an alliance is, and we'll see if you're right. What is an alliance? Got some people saying a deal, a team, teaming, a deal to stop terrorists, a group that is plotting something, a deal, a team, a group of people, where countries make a friendship. Some really good ways there of describing what an alliance is. Now, an alliance is basically, like we say, a team, a group, people, a pact, a promise, a friendship, okay, of countries coming together to say that we are going to support each other, okay? So we're going to support you, so if another country comes and attacks you, we'll be there and we'll help you. Now, that might just think that it's only going to help when there's a war happening, because we'll come in and help you. Okay? But what it also does as well is, if you can imagine, if the biggest countries in the world are all in an alliance, all together, say if anything happens, we're gonna work together to stop it happening, because we all have this pact, this deal, then that stops things happening. Okay, it's what we call a deterrent. Because if you're one little, imagine you're Switzerland, little Switzerland here between France and Germany. Imagine all of these countries around you have, okay, an alliance. Sorry, the word ran away from me. If they have an alliance, you're not going to invade Italy, even though they're bigger than you anyway, because if you invade Italy, all these other countries are going to be there. So it's a deterrent. It can stop war, and it can stop those things happening as well. Now, there were two main alliances at the time that Franz Ferdinand was assassinated. Okay, there were, you might be a little bit smaller, but there were the Triple Entente I'm going to spell that out for you because I know that is quite small and you might want to write it down. It's triple spelled the same way as always, but entente is a French word. E-N-T-E-N-T-E. There was the triple entente. Now the triple entente were France, they were the Great Britain or the United Kingdom, and they were Russia. Now, on this map here, all the countries that are blue are part of the Triple Entente. Now, I've only mentioned 3 because at the time the Archduke Franz Ferdinand was killed, there were only 3 in it. And later on, other countries joined. So we can see Italy's blue there, Portugal's blue. We can see another few countries around there that are blue. So they did join later on during the war as it was going on. If you have a look at the PowerPoint that Mr. Donaldson has made after the lesson, this map is on there, but it also has the dates on, okay? It has the dates that, sorry, Mrs. Carthy's taking the mickey at my French accent, entente. It has the dates on that those countries joined. So as the war was going on, when it started, those countries joined. So at this time, forget about the other countries. There was United Kingdom, France, Russia. They were an alliance. It was called the Triple Entente. And then there was another alliance. There was an alliance called the Central Powers. Now, the Central Powers were Germany and Austria-Hungary. Just those 2. Okay, so Bulgaria and Turkey were in there, but they joined later on. There's some other countries around the world, but they're on later on. Okay, you can see why they're called the Triple Entente because there's 3 of them, and you can see why they're called Central Powers because it's the centre of Europe that they're there. You can see that's quite a lot of land. Okay, that they take up, so quite 2 big alliances. Now, when Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated, the government of Austria-Hungary threatened to go to war with Serbia. Now, the reason that they threatened to go to war with Serbia was because it was someone from Serbia who had killed their future king. Okay, so they said that, well, at first they didn't see the war. Obviously, they weren't very happy because they killed their future king. So what they did is they gave them lots of demands, and they said, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, and if you don't do those, we are going to go to war with you. Okay? Serbia didn't do those things. Now, Russia was part of the Triple Entente with the United Kingdom and France, but Russia also decided to be on the side of Serbia. So they said, we agree with the Serbians, okay? Maybe someone from their country killed your king, but it wasn't everyone in the country that did that. So you can't go to war with a full country for the actions of just a few people. So they said, we are on the side of Russia. Now, when the demands of Serbia weren't met, Austria and Hungary said, right, we are declaring war on Serbia. Okay? Said, we are declaring war on Serbia. This, because Russia decided to side with Serbia, had a domino effect, which started World War I. So, because Austria-Hungary had a German, just making sure I get it in the right order for you guys. Because Austria-Hungary had an alliance with Germany, Germany said, when Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, Germany said, look, we're declaring war on Russia. Because we're defending our allies, we're defending our alliance. You said that you're going to defend Serbia. We're going to go to war with you to protect our friends, to protect our alliance. Okay? So Austria-Hungary declared war with Serbia. Germany declared war with Russia. Now, we now have the other alliance, the Triple Entente. France said, wait a minute, we have an alliance with Russia. Germany, if you're declaring war on Russia, do you know what we're going to do? We are going to declare war on you. So France now said, we're at war with you, Germany. Okay? So, what do the Germans do? All right then, that's fine. We're at war with you. Squeak. So, Germany declared war on Russia. So, Russia and Germany at war. France had said, right, we're at war with Germany. Germany said, right, we're at war with you. Okay, we've got Austria and Hungary now at war with Serbia, but obviously they are allies with Germany, so they're going to have to help protect them as well. So we have these countries. Now, there's one missing from the alliance, and it's ourselves, okay, Great Britain. So, on the 4th of August 1914, okay, so just a few months, you can see, month and a bit after Franz Ferdinand was assassinated, okay, United Kingdom entered and said, right, we're going to help. We're at war with Germany and Austria-Hungary as well to help our alliance. So now you have all of Europe, okay, involved in that war. Most of Europe, sorry, not all of Europe. So it looks like you're saying, right, well, it's World War One, Mr. Biggins. It's the Great War, Mr. B. There's only a few countries in there. That's only Europe as well. That's not the full world. Well, what happened was this domino effect started. So this is the official start because we have lots of these big countries in starting wars. But one of the main reasons that Great Britain joined is because Germany said, we've got a really good way of beating France so they can't do anything to us during the war. And a really good idea, though, means that we have to go through Belgium. Now, at the time, Belgium wasn't involved at all. So we said, you can't just go into a country that's not declared war on you and invade them so you can attack someone else. And that was the last little thing that made us start war with Germany. So obviously you can see Belgium went blue. They decided to be on our side because Germany had threatened to invade them. And other countries around started to join in. We can see Italy joined in, Portugal. We got Greece and Serbia and Albania and Romania as well, okay? Now the green countries are neutral. What that means is they didn't pick a side, okay? So they didn't say we're on this side, we're on that side. And mentioned before, empires. Great Britain this time had a massive empire around the world, so if we go to war, all of those countries go to war if it's needed to as well. So from this starting, events would escalate and snowball, and eventually in World War One, there was over 100 countries involved in the war. It was called the Great Wars in Big because there'd been nothing of that scale ever before. Which should have been since, but unfortunately no World War II started, but that's for another lesson, okay? But that is what the start of the World War One. So can you see how one decision, I hope you enjoyed looking at how sort of World War One started, but can you see how one decision, okay, from some people, a good decision or a bad decision, can start a domino effect of consequences that lead into much bigger things, much massive things, okay? You always reap what you sow. So this, okay, this assassination of one person led to World War One starting. If you go back even further, you could see that wrong turning by that driver caused World War One, caused the loss of all of those lives. One little decision. And it's crazy to think that one little thing like that can result in massive and huge consequences. Now, in the link below underneath the video, I've actually put in I'm not sure if I have, but I will if I've forgot to put it, but I'll check afterwards. I've put a link for another video. It's only a couple of minutes that tells you about Franz Ferdinand and the assassination and how it led to World War One. It's pretty much going over what I've already said. However, it does have visuals and stuff as well, so you can sort of see it happening in an animation, rather than just seeing my ugly mug talk about it, okay? After you had maybe a little look at that, there are two things that we are going to do today for the work. If you go to the Padlet, that again is there in the description, Mr. Donaldson has kindly made a PowerPoint which has these maps on in a lot more detail and has some great tasks on. Some of them asking you to remember some historical facts, okay? Now, if you've been looking at my notes and if you've been listening, you should have all the answers to just breeze through them like that. If you haven't, you might have to watch the video again or watch little parts to go back afterwards. Or obviously, you can check through in the PowerPoint because there's lots of information in there as well. But another task that I want you to do, and this one you're going to have to listen carefully because this one isn't in the work, okay? This one isn't in the work pack or anything like that. I might put something on the Padlet, okay? But this is what I want you to do, and it's more of a geography task, okay? We have a map here, and this map is in the PowerPoint, or you can obviously go back in the video and pause before I draw all my arrows on and everything. This is Europe before World War One. It's a lot different, okay? Countries have changed borders. Obviously with World War One happening, that it's changed, but also we've had another World War after that, and that has changed different borders and things like that, as well as other little things due time. So what I want you to do is have a look at this map. Write down the countries here that were around, so we know it's 1914, in Europe. Write down all the countries down. Then what I want you to do is to find a map. It might be in an atlas that you have at home. It could be on Google Maps, on your tablet or your laptop or anything like that. But find a map of Europe today. And what I want you to do is I want you to write a list of all the countries in Europe today. And I want you to tell me a couple of things. And this is what I want you send to my Facebook, my Instagram or Twitter or on the Padlet. Can you tell me which countries are the same? Which countries were around then and are around now? Okay. Can you tell me how many more countries there are now? There's a lot more countries now. Obviously, the land hasn't changed, but they've broke up more. Because remember, countries are just made up by people. Okay, these borders don't exist. There's not a line going down the actual land or anything like that. These are things that are dreamt up by people. Okay, these things are made by people. By the way, this little one here, if you are doing it, that's Luxembourg. But if you have a look at the map, you'll be able to see that. Okay, these borders can change. They can say, oh, you own that land now, you own this land. Okay, so how many more countries are there now? And then the last one, that's a bit of a challenge, and you'll have to, you can't just get a list of countries for this one, because you could just get a list of countries for that one, is I want you to have a look at the map and which countries are the same, so still exist, but their borders have changed. Okay, so there's some countries up there, okay, I'll tell you ours haven't because we're an island, so the United Kingdom and Great Britain, we are the same now as we were in 1914. However, there's some countries on there that still exist, however, their borders have changed and moved. So they might be bigger, they might be smaller, okay? Can you find those countries as well? Really, really impressed if you can find those ones. So there's a task that you can do. There's no Kahoot today with them, but there is obviously that extra task that you've got there with the geography. I'm going to stay around a little bit, so if you need any help or anything like that, give me a shout, and I can come up here and I can give you some information. Remember, in the comments there for the information that you need, and in the chat is obviously to get chatting with people. Thank you to Miss Allison and Miss Carthy for moderating today and making sure, and Miss Rice as well, sorry, don't miss Miss Rice out, that I saw were in there in the chat, making sure everyone is working hard. So really well done to all you guys. If you can, if you enjoyed the lesson, give the video a like for me, okay? It really, really helps out. And as always, if you need me for anything, use the socials, use the Padlet, use anything like that. I'm going to stay around a little bit longer. If you need a hand, just give me a shout in the comments below the video. Brilliant. This is my little seat, so that's why you can only see the top of my head. Oh, well done, Mrs. Rice, keeping me on task as well. Just before you go as well, guys, today is the first day that I'm going to be doing 2 lessons today. So I am going to be doing another lesson this afternoon. It's going to be an art lesson, and that's going to be at 2 o'clock. For the art lesson, all you need is a pencil and a piece of paper, or a few pieces of paper, a rubber, and you'll need a ruler as well, okay? So that's going to be at 2 o'clock. So have a go at this work, and you can come back along, a little bit of an arty afternoon. So 2 o'clock, you can come back, and we'll do some art together as well. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Rice, for reminding me of that. Right, everyone. I'm just going to refresh the comments, make sure there's no questions in there, and then if there's not, we're going to end the stream there. Let's have a look live now. Right, we have no comments in there asking any questions immediately from what we've talked about. See some really nice comments there, people really enjoying the lesson. I'm glad that you did. Okay, like I said, join us again at, join me again at 2 o'clock, where we'll be doing an art lesson. You need a pencil, a ruler, a rubber, and a piece of paper, obviously. Can I just say, someone mentioned there was asking about a ruler. Do you need one? It is really important that you have a ruler for the art lesson this afternoon. It's really going to help you. If you haven't got one, if you have something with a straight edge, you can do it with that, but a ruler is going to be ideal. So try and find one if you don't know where one is in the house. If not, find something with a straight line that obviously you can draw around but inside of without damaging. Okay, don't pick something precious that your parents are going to be mad about when you damage them. Okay. Greatly enjoyed today's lesson and hopefully see you all at 2 o'clock. See you later.